This is a political hit piece. It's Washington, D.C., with a judge who probably doesn't love Donald Trump, so is going to try their best to see if they can somehow figure out, even after the Trump team puts forward their objections. And let me go through the timetable for you real quick. So this gets filed on the 26th. He files to have it unsealed with redactions, and there are redactions made. A lot of those are people's names. Now, those redactions will not remain if this actually gets to be filed. But he said, can we at least release publicly the evidence that we have so the American
people can see.
So the American people can see the criminal case we're about to bring, including the defendant. That's not usually what you do, okay? But they filed that October 2nd. October 2nd comes. In the last evening, it gets unsealed, so they got what they wanted. October 10th is the deadline, so they have 8 days, 7 now, for the Trump team to file objections. There's been no date assigned by Chutkan for a final decision. That is likely late October, which means we're not going to get anything on this before substantive before the election day on whether or not any of this could move forward. And see, that's what I think is the judicial damage here that is disgraceful, is that Chutkan knows and Jack Smith knows that none of this will be fully determined by Election Day. So even if Judge Chutkan were to read through those Supreme Court decisions and ultimately come to a conclusion that none of this can be brought against President Trump, that will not come out until likely after the election, if he was vindicated that way. Certainly a trial won't begin. And none of this had to be made public. But Jack Smith requested for it to be made public. So are these people really seeking equal justice under law, or are they just Democrat legal hacks committing the lawfare that we've been preaching against happening internationally that has now unfortunately crept into the U.S. political system, Logan?
Yep.
And that makes us not much better than a lot of developing world countries, will say it that way.
Well, the timeline just reeks. It just reeks of political interference. I mean, there's no other way around it. When you look at the way it all lines up, it's saying, well, we're not going to be able to have an answer till when? Well, October 2nd. And then, okay, what about when's next? Okay, maybe late October, maybe into the week of the last week of October. So I don't know, the next Tuesday, there will be a general election, one of which of these is the candidate. There are moments in time and in history, in politics, where you go, man, you can't believe that something like this is happening. And I feel like this is one of those moments, Jordan. But of course, it's not all that shocking anymore, because this just seems to be now the normal. The normal is playing politics with real serious elections.
Logan, let's get into a call now.
Let's go to Daniel, who's calling in Nevada on line 2. Daniel, you're on the air.
Hello, you guys. Yeah, if Trump doesn't win, it's going to break our election system altogether. This is going to set an example. If he don't win, they're going to finish him off to show nobody else is going to mess with the deep states that's running our country right now.
Ultimately here, the constant lawfare has got to be put to an end. Because if we continue to treat our opponents this way, we are not the country that our founding fathers, even those men and women who have fought, not just in the Revolutionary War or in World War I or World War II in Korea or Vietnam, in Iraq, inside, of course, Afghanistan. We fight for these values that at the end of the day, we respect our leaders who are elected by the people. They can make bad decisions as leaders. As oftentimes, I'm sure anybody who works for big companies or small companies, or if you're the top of your company, every decision you make is probably not the best one. Sometimes you don't get it right. That doesn't always make it criminal. Statements that you make that can be taken out of context, for instance, should not be a crime in the United States of America. It may impact whether or not someone wants to vote for you or whether or not someone wants to do business with you. It should not impact whether or not you end up behind bars with a felony record. Remember, Donald Trump and these charges are speaking. This is just speech. He took no actions. He did not enter the Capitol. He did not tell people to enter the Capitol. When people did enter the Capitol, he told them to leave. Okay? And he asked, we all know this now, as much as the Democrats constantly say it's not true, days before January 6th, he alerted the National Guard. He alerted the Capitol and Nancy Pelosi that they should bring in more security, that he would unleash the National Guard for them to do that. And Logan, they said no. So instead, they relied on a handful, compared to what the National Guard would be, of Capitol Hill police to stop thousands of people moving at them. If the National Guard was there, what we saw on January 6th would have stopped and ended where the National Guard was standing.
Right. If you read through a lot of these documents, you'll just sort of notice that a lot of it is hearsay, a lot of it is alleged, a lot of it's from people. So there's a lot of it. Yes, if you read through it, you may go, oh, there's a lot of damning stuff in here. But when you really look at it, there's not a lot of pure evidence to suggest it. Let's go ahead and continue on. We'll try to get to at least one more call. Let's go. Terry is calling on line 1, who's watching on the ACLJ app, which we appreciate. Terry, you're on the air.
Thank you. My question is with the Jack Smith allegations, if this were to go to the Supreme Court again, could there be repercussions legally or ethically for Jack Smith?
No, because the Supreme Court said go back and take out what we are telling you the president is immune from. And that always takes some guesswork from the prosecutor. So unless somehow you can prove that Jack Smith is not doing this in good faith, I don't think he is. But if you can't prove that, it looks like he spent a long time and 165 pages trying to do what the Supreme Court asked, which was say, no, you've got to rework your charges because he's got some immunity from things, some charges you can't even bring. And so long as he made his best effort, then Judge Chutkan gets to review it and toss out parts she doesn't like. And then the Trump team as well, before she does that, gets to challenge it, and she then makes a decision. So I don't think that's how we want. You don't look to the Supreme Court to say the Supreme Court's going to tell a prosecutor, no, you can't redo your brief and redo the criminal counts when we tell you that there's a path to do the criminal counts potentially. That's, again, gets that big question of when does a president lose their immunity, and when does a acting president lose their immunity from presidential acts? When do they become just acts of an individual? And that's a tough line to draw. The Supreme Court didn't try to draw it perfectly because they can't imagine every situation.
Let's go ahead and let's go to people have been on hold for a long time. Let's go to Richard, who's calling in Ohio on line 4. Richard is watching on YouTube, which we appreciate. And if you are on YouTube right now and you haven't subscribed, hit that subscribe button. No, we really appreciate it. Go ahead, Richard.
First thing we got to do is get Donald Trump back in office. Guarantee you within a week or two, you'll have that problem overseas stopped. Guaranteed.
To change things in Washington takes elections, but you have to choose the right people. And you have to get them enough time to get things done. I would say Donald Trump did in 4 years what many presidents don't get done in 8. But that's because he's a 24/7 kind of actor. And so 3 Supreme Court nominees confirmed, peace in the Middle East, for goodness sakes, the Abraham Accords, destroyed ISIS.
People remember.
Yes.
Hopefully they do remember what it felt like. I mean, obviously the end of the Trump administration was COVID. So it's those memories are not good. But pre-COVID, you were talking about a thriving economy, peace in the Middle East, things that never happened in our lifetime.
You could buy a second home. People were investing in rental homes.
All prices were down.
Properties. Remember all those TV shows, commercials you would see about investing in second properties and leasing those? That doesn't happen right now because the interest rates are so high.
Yeah.
No one was talking about the price of groceries.
No, that was not even an issue.
Or gas, except for, it feels like I'm young again because I'm paying the same at the pump or less than I was when I got my driver's license.
Yeah.
But you can't just give them 4 years, and you can't give them a Democrat House and Senate. So if you're talking about Republicans doing this, you're talking about 8 years as president. So it might not be Donald Trump the second term, but getting a Republican in there for the next 4, and then keeping a Republican Congress. That's actually the most difficult thing to do because the House is up every 2 years, the Senate is up every 6 years, and the votes are a little different. But if you don't have all 3, you'll never be able to fully drain the swamp unless finally the American people have seen enough. I don't think we're at that point yet, though, Logan. We're not at that point yet because the polls with Harris still wouldn't be this tight.
It's very tight right now. I know some of the new polls that came out in the last day or so show pretty much still at a dead heat.